Hello everyone, it's Emily, and before we get into our podcast, I wanted to remind all of our listeners that every month, Bernie and I host an Unreasonable Connection event where you can meet your co-working peers, talk, swap stories and advice, and get an extra charge of energy. Sign up on Luma or in the show notes, and let's get on with the podcast.
Hello folks, and welcome to I'm going to call this the European Freelancer Special with Elina. Elina, for the few people that don't know you, what are you known for and what would you like to be known for?
In the freelance space, I'm known for running the Freelance Business Community, which has been active for the last, 8 years? Yeah, man, it's so long. Yeah, 8 years. We've been in all forms and shapes, and now it's a new wave of freelance business community that's coming.
Is it arrived or is it coming? Is it circled?
Yeah, circled. It's in transition. So we've launched a new platform, whereas before I had community all over the space. We had Slack, we had event platform, masterclasses platform. We have social media, newsletter, and I thought, okay, I need to have a home for all that. And so the transition is as we speak, lots of people moving from different platforms to Circle, and that's where I'll have my first event this year.
Gee, Elina, what's your first event this year?
It's Freelance Business Pricing Forum.
We're so seamless, aren't we? So let's tell us a little bit about the Freelance Business Pricing Forum. But before we end the podcast, we have to talk about Freelancers Week and all that stuff in October, because that's why we're building up to that, folks. Because just in case you didn't know, the freelance community is a massive part of the co-working community. So the reason we talk about this every month is because I think the better we understand freelancers, the better we'll be able to accommodate them and serve them and include them in our communities. So that's the bit I meant to say at the beginning. So this Freelance Business Pricing Forum, what's all that about?
It's all about pricing, to be honest. I had, which is clear enough, I guess. I had an idea that we need to clarify the subject for freelancers, because there are so many opinions and so many strategies, and everyone is saying this and that without giving a coherent picture. Because I don't think you can. For example, let me rephrase this. The notion that you should not charge per hour is kind of indoctrinated in our minds, and there is nothing bad about it, to be honest. But somehow freelancers, and myself including, thought that charging per hour is something bad. But that's not always the case. So I wanted to explain to people which way to go depending on your specific situation, on your experience, on your niche, or on the clientele, on the type of projects that you do, and which strategy would work the best for you. And it's not that you just pick one and adopt it. You have to understand what works in which situation. And we spoke about it earlier, Bernie, that I personally had an issue. I was thinking all the way that I'm doing good in pricing until I came to a conclusion that actually I'm not understanding it. I'm just influenced by certain opinions, but I don't know which formula would work the best in my case. And I used to charge per project, I had retainers, I had per hour, I had daily fees, I had all of that, until certain moment I got stuck, understanding that I'm actually harming myself. And the reason I understood, because I could compare working for the same client, charging per hour, and then switching into projects and eventually losing money this way. And so that's why I thought, okay, if I'm having that issue, then all the rest, many freelancers having this issue as well. And, you don't even need to survey people. Pricing is one of the hottest topic. And eventually we have lots of signups already for the forum. And I hope I'll be able to clarify it. We have subjects there covering psychology of pricing. Melina Palmer, she's a author of The Truth About Pricing, actually teaching entrepreneurs and universities, students and universities about the psychology behind pricing. So we're going to do that. Then we'll have also, obviously, AI will come into place. We'll see how AI helps us to develop better proposals and better pricing with that. We'll look into when is the right moment to raise your prices, and how to do it the right way, how to actually calculate the minimum you should be charging, and then eventually from there you can expand. And we'll also have experts like Jonathan Stark, Sarah Duran, Helen Dibble, I think her last name. Sorry, Helen.
It's Dibble. It's Dibble. It's definitely Dibble.
Yeah. Actually uncovering situations. So we're collecting questions from people where they have an issue, and we'll go through them and try to help those freelancers to find a way out. With Jonathan particularly, we'll be talking why hourly fees are not good. A little bit in contradiction to what I said. But at the same time, we'll look, okay, if that is not good, how can you prepare yourself to walk away from hourly rates? Like, what is the strategy behind it? Because it's not happening from being in the same place and doing the same thing. Absolutely not. It has to be an update to your entire, maybe even branding, positioning, the way you pitch yourself, the way you talk about yourself, and many other things. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be a good one.
That point you made about like it's your experience and everything, because I know for the amount of times I've sat around a table in a co-working space with freelancers, whether we're doing Right Club or just, we used to do freelancer meetups and everything like that. And there's always something to do with pricing. And people are at different stages, and like the confidence or the understanding you have when you sit in front of a client on your own after your second job versus your 30-second job is really, really different. And when people say, "Oh, can you do me a proposal?" I will ask them, "Oh, what do you want to be in it?" And then I'll write it, and I will say, "I'm really dyslexic and I finish things, so can you just tell me what you need to be in it?" And it will save me a lot of time. But then also, and I learned this off Jonathan, is if quite often people say, "Send me a proposal," because they're too scared to say, "I don't want to work with you." So if they don't want to work with you, they will tell you there and then. But I would never have done that, second job in. And just all that experience is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's understanding the customer is so important, but also asking the right questions.
And as you were talking there, I was thinking the amount of times I thought I could just read a book on pricing and then that would be it. And it's just like, I think there's something and we talked about this before, like how you value yourself as a freelancer or a consultant. That has a lot to do with it as well. Do you think?
Absolutely. Reading a book may help. Why not? Actually, what many freelancers are forgetting is that they have to invest in their education in any form they prefer, whether it's reading books, and there are lots of books written on that subject, or listening podcast, or joining an event where they could have their questions answered, or working with a coach. It's absolutely up to them. I realized I lost so many years doing the same things, thinking they're perfect, but they were not. And therefore, like after some of the years, I came to conclusion I really need to upgrade myself big time, because I don't want to go in circles and do the same things, hoping the result's going to be better, which is never the case. It's always an evolution.
Can I ask? I meant to ask this earlier. Is in the whole, and I just do not know about this. Like in the whole freelancer landscape, and we'll talk about Europe because that's where we know the best. How does things like 0 hours culture, and there seems to be this mess of the cost of living crisis. People want 0 hour contracts, and it's like this freelancer. Like most people, I get a job off, I either know or someone I know puts me in touch with them, and that's because I've been at it for so long. But that definition of a freelancer, and how to charge seems really, really murky when you're like stepping into that universe for the first time. Somewhere in there, there's a question. Sorry.
Yeah, what was the question?
I'm gonna go back to this. Sorry, I went on a ramble there. Apologies, folks. Like, what about 0 hours culture and freelance and that whole gig economy thing? Does that come into this, or is that a completely different area?
I probably need to ask what is 0 hour culture, because I haven't come across yet.
When people say you have it happens a lot with Just Eat things like oh, you have a job with us, but we're not gonna you work for us, but it's 0 hours contract. So we can either give you 2 hours a week or we can give you 40 hours a week. Whereas quite often you'll be, we're doing hourly billing and I'm going to pay you 10 hours a week to work on this project.
Oh, yeah. That's very tricky. Because in my experience, that happened also. I had several contracts actually in a period of time that was stated, let's say 20 hours a week, but billed per timesheets. And eventually what happened, like I'm blocking this 20 hours for each client a week, but then only like 10 hours spent or 5 hours spent, and the rest time is unpaid. And there is no work technically from their side that's coming. And I find it very difficult to first plan financially and then time-wise and then, workload and things. And at some point I thought, okay, that's not ideal. So I guess that is the scenario you're describing. And I don't know an answer. It's actually probably a good question to raise during the forum to see what people are thinking. But I'm pretty sure quite a lot of them would say, yeah, that is not quite convenient. If someone booked you for X amount of hours, and even if it's like 0 hours contract, as you say, it's unclear how much can you expect.
I think that there's this whole thing about the one I know best is like Just Eat and Uber. Like some countries position those people as entrepreneurs and self-employed, when really there's I don't want to say which one it is, but there's one of the food delivery things that got taken to court in Spain, and because they were not giving any benefits or any support or anything to the riders, and then it was like, if you wanted to be these people to deliver food for you, you need to take care of them, and you need to make sure there's like basic healthcare and insurance and everything like this. You can't just position them as, it's one thing for people like you and me to be freelancers and consultants because we understand how the whole thing works and we're not standing in the rain on a bike. And it's another thing for a huge company to pretend that the people delivering their stuff are entrepreneurs, and it's really tricky. And I think that's one of the really dark sides of like everyone can work for themselves and that kind of thing.
Yeah, but that is that type of freelancers which technically considered as platform workers.
Yeah.
Right. So that's slightly different scenario. And at some point I did an overview of like who are freelancers in Europe. And we had that discussed during the policy forum last year. I need to republish it on LinkedIn because it's a very nice diagram. And should the rules apply to, I think there was seven categories, different scenarios, and should the rules apply to all of them, the same rule to all of those 7 categories, which made it totally nonsense because we all work differently and situations are different from one another. For instance, this Uber driver could have a full-time job. And so imagine if he is imposed to have another full-time contract. Like, is it even possible? And why would he need that social protection, if he already has the full-time job? So that was a little bit strange for me. Now, I think it's very much similar to fake independence, and I think we discussed that last time, where government scrutinizing companies just to see whether they pushed full-time employees into freelancing because it tax-wise better for them. It's a long, endless discussion to have, and I hope one day we'll have an answer. I'm pretty sure there will be a discussion in October about this.
It seems to be talking. Maybe it's just because I'm paying even more attention, but like this, big companies getting away with it seems to be even more under the spotlight than ever before, and I think that's a really good thing. And there's people who I would not expect to be talking out about it. I've seen a few people saying, how come if you live in the UK and you sell something on Amazon and you get taxed and everything on Amazon, but Amazon's based in, like, I think it's Dublin or Luxembourg, and they pay you end up paying more tax for that transaction because you're in the UK than Amazon because they're based in Luxembourg and Dublin. So all the burden is on you, even though the big company is the one making the most profit. Just before I want to jump into this bit about in your LinkedIn post, you said you started freelancing for freedom, but your income model doesn't support the work-life balance you imagined. And I know I've been in that situation many times, and I still get in that situation. I still can't believe it. But can you say a bit about that? Like there's I don't know how to connect it, sorry, but there's something about imposter syndrome in there, because we were talking how you, like, both of us have charged this amount of money for ages and then gone and spoken to someone and then gone, oh, I could have been doing that for ages. And there's this, so many times, I think freelancers, consultant people end up starting their own business. They end up like working twice as long as they would if they had a regular job, but it's slightly okay because they're doing what they want and they probably like it more than having a job, but it doesn't work out like the posters in the bookshop about working 4 hours a week.
Yeah, true. Well, in my situation, how it was, so I started in 2016 or 17, technically transitioning from corporate world and continue doing the same what I was doing for years in agencies and other organizations where I was doing event management and marketing. So I had a client and I was technically doing exactly the same as I used to do. And the only way for me to grow that way was to have more customers. So eventually what you end up having is just working long hours because you have so many projects. At some point, I started hiring support and taking even bigger projects. Sometimes I would just pitch to run an entire conference of like huge budgets and then hiring like 5-10 people to support me. And that could be different freelance professionals, from coordinator to graphical designer, website developers, and da-da-da. But that is such a huge responsibility. First of all, the budget is like massive. And if you screw up one thing there financially, you broke immediately. But then I've got a baby, and then you realize you don't have all that time anymore. And also you don't want to take that responsibility anymore, and you don't want to have that stress anymore. And that eventually pushed me into thinking, how can whether I still want to do the same? And if I don't want to do the same, how can I level myself up? Because being in the industry for more than 20 years, having a broad network, how can I use that into something else that would be still connected with the industry and my experience that I did, but be more of a consultancy? And that's how I wanted to position myself. I am a consultant. I can advise on certain things. I can help streamline processes. I can help to achieve better ROI from events, or suggest better marketing of it, and da-da-da. But I never actually managed to position myself that way. And that's, coming back to the pricing issue, I actually was told that I'm still executing the task as I was doing 20 years ago. And there is nothing of a consultancy in here, unless I start developing my frameworks, which I already have, by the way, but I never mentioned them to anyone, that I actually have my well-developed framework that helps customers to go through a certain journey. I've never built like blueprints significantly enough that I can say, hey, I can just deliver that for you and you do it. whether with my help or with someone else, it's up to you, but ideally with someone else, because I only want to consult. And so that's how imposter syndrome, perhaps there is a bit of that, because we always tend to think, are we good enough for that? Are we smart enough for that? Do we already have enough of knowledge and expertise to produce something like this? But when I actually started going back to my files and templates, and I'm like, oh my God, there is so much of the stuff there that I can use. And I do use them. I just never kind of put it in a system. So that's I guess was my post about.
That framework thing that happened to me as well. I adore email and the writing the email and putting it all together. And I can't remember where it might have been. Chris Marr said like, what you need to have. He didn't say you need to have a framework. Sorry, it's like you probably have a framework and you don't realize you have it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think of something we all know, but there's a Bernie or an Elina Six Sigma or 5-step program, and it's in everything we've been doing for all this time. And when you exactly what you said there, like go back into your files and everything, it's like, oh, like that's what I do every time, and that's your framework, and you've invented it more than you think you have, because you just added to it as you've gone along. And I've only learned this in the last year, which is pretty embarrassing, because I've just been doing the same thing for ages like you. I just never recognized it as that thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think many freelancers are guilty not even stopping for a second to think about it, because many of us are so busy doing things. But what helped me is actually having some idle time to rethink, to imagine myself in a different scenario, to see what I would like to do with the limited time that I have now. Technically, I have 4 hours or 3 hours a day to do all my work because the rest is with the kid and other things. So is there something that needs to be changed? And that's how I started looking at coaches or mentors or people who can move me from that dead end a little bit forward. So I hope, yeah. And with that, actually, I hope to be able to help others. That's what I realized. Like, you fix yourself first before you can help others. That's the formula I'd like to follow these days.
That's true too. And you can help others much better when you've gone through the pain barrier yourself. Just before we go, we have to talk. Like, what's the word on the Freelance Business Forum street about AI this week? Like, that is, we were talking before we came on about I feel there's a divide in freelancers not using AI and using AI and like, what are you reading from people?
We'll have Miguel, who is a student actually still, but he's also founder of Icertix. I think that's how it's pronounced. And he's developing a tool that will help freelancers to prepare better proposals, also tapping into artificial intelligence and what else is available there. So I'm very curious to hear his view on how AI can help to solve pricing issues, if that is the question. Generally on AI, and we mentioned that earlier too, I compare it's like with internet. Internet appeared, and I remember my school years when teachers were saying, but nobody's going to study anymore, they can download the work from internet, there are tons of these materials available. And I remember how they were fighting the fact that people were just copying something from internet. Well, guess what, everyone is copying something from internet these days. AI, I guess, just makes it better, faster, smarter. And what I realized today also, it actually helps us to know what we don't know. I like to put a PDF document to ChatGPT and ask, okay, which question should I ask here? And then you can actually, it makes me surprised every single time, like, oh, I haven't even thought about this. And then you start researching even further to see, okay, can I learn more about this thing? So that's pretty interesting. I think there is no need to be afraid of AI in any case.
My favorite thing is, obviously I use ChatGPT and Gemini, but is Google Notebook. And there are, I've been part of the, or connected to the research group for collaborative spaces for 10 years now. And there's lots of PhD people who write very well researched papers about everything to do with co-working and freelancing and the future of work and local economies and everything like this. And I find it very hard to read, not just because it's a dense academic paper, but I'm like dyslexic, and to stay with something for that long is really hard. And I do have a thing where it's like a text-to-speech reader where I can put it in and listen to it, but I put it into Google Notebook, and this PhD paper comes back as a podcast between two people, and it is AI generated, but I don't care. And then I can search the document and say, where in this document does it say about, freelancers and ice cream, or how many co-working spaces had helicopter pads in this document, and whatever it is. And then there's a mind map section in there too, so you can see how all the ideas interlink to each other. And I didn't even know I needed that. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I think the problem these days is how to catch up with technology. Because if you take your phone, for example, the software is being updated almost annually, and every time there are new features. But how many of them we're using? Every time I'm just, oh, okay, I can do that, but I just never knew. And I'm pretty sure that if we learn how to use iPhone or whatever phone you have better and more efficiently, probably it's going to save lots of troubles. But I guarantee maybe 90% of population just don't know how to use it, except like WhatsApp and taking pictures and making a phone call. Right.
That's I mean, like, instead of going to support forums, I ask ChatGPT how to use my iPhone nowadays, and I can't think of anything particular, but like, I know I've learned how to use my iPhone better. I always feel like I'm using 40% of its power at the most, and I've had one for ever now. But I've got to know things I have even better because I screenshot things and put it into ChatGPT and say, what's this about, and everything like that. And I'd never go to support forums, or it'll take you ages to track down how to move this file from your laptop to your thing using AirDrop in a certain wind condition. So definitely, we should go. I've got to go and have breakfast, and I'm sure you've got to run an event or something. So
okay.
Where can we find you online? We'll put all the links in the show notes to all the Freelance Business Forum and the Pricing Forum and everything. But is there anything else you want to particularly make sure we get in there?
All said. That's fine. Go have your breakfast.
Thank you very much for your time and attention today, folks. And go to our juicy show notes there, and there's a link to the LinkedIn co-working group, and always share your stories in there or ask questions. And there's the Workspace Design Show coming up, and there's a links to all of Elina's Freelance Business Forum, and we'll put a link to European Freelancers Week and all the stuff happening in October as well. Just get that in the diaries now, and wherever you are in the world, be careful out there. It is a jungle.